At the beginning of Landman, Tommy is not a man you question. He walks into every room like he owns the ground under it. The oil fields, the deals, the risks, this is his world. He understands pressure better than anyone because he lives in it every day. For Tommy, life is simple. You stay strong, you stay sharp, and you never show doubt. Emotion is a weakness. Attachment is a risk. And risk, in his world, can destroy everything. Tommy built himself this way. The oil business is not soft. It rewards control and punishes hesitation. Over the years, he learned that if you slow down, someone else steps ahead. If you trust too much, someone takes advantage. So he became the man who always moves first. The man who decides. The man who carries the weight alone. At home, that same mindset follows him. He does not separate work from life because to him, they are the same. Every conversation feels like a negotiation. Every problem needs a solution. He believes providing and protecting are enough. Feelings? Those come later, if they come at all. When we first see Tommy and Cami together, there's already distance between them. Not loud distance. Not dramatic shouting. But quiet space. The kind that grows when two people stop speaking their truth. Tommy thinks he is doing what is right. He thinks strength means silence. He thinks love means handling everything alone. But what he does not see is that his control is slowly pushing Cami away. In the early episodes, Tommy reacts instead of listens. When Cami raises concerns, he brushes them off. Not because he does not care, but because he believes he knows better. He trusts his instincts more than anyone else's opinion. That confidence made him successful in the oil fields. But in a relationship, that same trait becomes a wall. There are small moments that show who he truly is beneath the tough exterior. A pause before he answers. A look that lingers too long. A breath he holds when things get tense. These are the cracks in his armor. He hides them quickly, but they are there. Tommy is not heartless. He is afraid. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of failing the people who depend on him. Afraid that if he slows down and feels too much, everything he built could fall apart. So instead of opening up, he works harder. Instead of admitting fear, he doubles down on strength. And that is the real starting point of his evolution. Because the man we meet in the beginning believes power keeps him safe. He believes being the strongest person in the room is the only way to survive. What he does not understand yet is that survival and connection are not the same thing. Cami sees this long before he does. Tommy starts this journey as a leader in business, but emotionally, he is isolated. He stands tall in the oil fields, yet inside his own home, he is slowly losing balance. The world around him is changing. Pressure is rising. Stakes are getting higher. And the one person who could truly stand beside him is waiting for him to let her in. But at this stage, Tommy does not bend. When we first see Cami, she doesn't demand control the way Tommy does. She doesn't raise her voice to make a point. She doesn't walk into rooms trying to prove anything. But that calm presence, that's not weakness. That's awareness. Cami lives in the same world of pressure and risk, but she handles it differently. Where Tommy pushes forward, Cami steps back and studies. She listens more than she speaks. She reads the room. She reads people. And most of all, she reads Tommy. From the outside, it may look like she stands behind him. But in truth, she stands beside him, just in a quieter way. She understands the oil business, the danger, the politics, and the pride that drives the men in it. She knows how ego works in that world. She knows how easily power can turn into blindness, and she sees that blindness growing in Tommy. In the early stages of their relationship, Cami tries to reach him gently. She doesn't attack his decisions. She doesn't try to compete with his authority. Instead, she asks questions. She offers different angles. She challenges him without making it a battle. But Tommy often mistakes her calm tone for doubt. What he doesn't realize is that Cami's silence is not surrender. It's patience. There are moments when you can see it in her eyes. She knows something is coming before it happens. She senses the cracks forming long before they split open. She understands that strength without balance becomes self-destruction. And she fears that Tommy is heading in that direction. But Cami is not just reacting to him. She has her own inner shift happening too. At the start, she carries emotional weight quietly. She absorbs tension. She smooths over conflict. She protects peace inside the home while Tommy fights battles outside. But over time, that role begins to change. Not because she wants control, but because she refuses to disappear. One of the most powerful things about Cami's early character is her restraint. She could argue harder. She could fight louder. But she chooses timing over impulse. She understands that real influence is not about noise, it's about impact. And when she does speak firmly, it matters. You start to notice small changes. Her tone becomes clearer. Her boundaries become stronger. She stops accepting short answers. She stops letting serious conversations end halfway. She begins to stand in her full presence, not just as Tommy's partner, but as her own force. Cami's evolution doesn't explode. It builds. It builds in the quiet pauses. It builds in the looks she gives when she disagrees. It builds in the moments she decides not to step back anymore. She loves Tommy. That much is clear. But she also sees his flaws without illusion. She knows that his strength is real, but so is his fear. And instead of trying to fix him, she starts demanding something deeper. Honesty. At this stage in the story, Cami is still calm, still steady. But she is no longer invisible. She is beginning to shift from silent support to emotional equal. And that shift? It's the beginning of balance. Because while Tommy believes power keeps him safe, Cami understands something he doesn't yet. Real strength is shared. Up until this point, Tommy believed he could handle everything the same way he always had, with force, speed, and confidence. Problems at work? Solve them fast. Pressure from rivals? Push harder. Tension at home? Let it cool down on its own. That had always worked for him, but this time, something felt different. The pressure from the oil business started bleeding into his personal life more than ever. The bigger risks, bigger enemies, bigger consequences. And instead of talking about it, Tommy did what he always does. He carried it alone. He shut down emotionally and focused only on winning. Cami noticed the shift immediately. He was shorter with his words, quieter at dinner, distant even when he was sitting right next to her. His mind was always somewhere else. She could feel that he was fighting something bigger than usual, but he wouldn't let her in. The turning point came during a heated moment when business stress followed him home. It wasn't just an argument. It was exposure. Cami challenged one of his decisions, not in a dramatic way, but directly. She questioned the risk he was taking. She questioned the cost. And for the first time, she didn't soften her tone to protect his pride. Tommy reacted fast, defensive, sharp. He told her she didn't understand the stakes. He said he was doing this for them, for their future. But that's when Cami said something that hit deeper than any business rival ever could. She told him she didn't need a hero. She needed a partner. That sentence changed the air in the room. For the first time, Tommy didn't have a quick answer. Because deep down, he knew she was right. He had been protecting her from the outside world, but at the same time, he had been shutting her out of his world completely. And that's when control slipped. Not in a dramatic breakdown, not in shouting, but in silence. Tommy's usual confidence paused. His strong posture weakened just slightly. His voice lost that firm edge. It was a small moment, but it was the first time we saw him unsure in front of her. I didn't attack him. She didn't push further. She simply held her ground. That moment became the first real shift in their dynamic. Because now, the issue wasn't just oil deals or dangerous choices. It was trust. It was vulnerability. It was whether Tommy could accept that strength doesn't mean carrying everything alone. For Tommy, this was unfamiliar territory. In business, showing doubt can cost you millions. In leadership, hesitation can destroy respect. But in love, refusing to open up can cost you everything. This turning point planted something new. Between them, tension mixed with truth. From here on, Cami would no longer stay in the background of his decisions. And Tommy would slowly begin to realize that shutting her out was no longer an option. The power dynamic had shifted. It wasn't about who leads anymore. It was about who listens. And for the first time in his life, Tommy was being asked to do something harder than closing a deal. He was being asked to open up. After that first turning point, something subtle changed inside Tommy. On the surface, he was still the same strong leader. He still handled deals, still took risks, still stood tall in front of his crew. But around Cami, there was a new tension, not anger, not distance, but awareness. For the first time, he started thinking before he spoke to her. That may sound small, but for a man like Tommy, it was huge. He began replaying her words in his mind. "I don't need a hero. I need a partner." That line stayed with him. It followed him into the oil fields, into meetings, into long drives alone. And slowly, it started breaking down something he had carried for years. The belief that love means protection, not participation. There are quiet scenes that show this shift.